So welcome to the 22nd Speculative Futures panel. I'm Annika Keils and I'm the organizer of this event series. It's so good to have you all tonight. And a warm welcome to our speakers of the evening, Henrik Ries and the design students of FH Potsdam, Gesine Trenhardt, Peter Schwarz, Marina Honcharenko, and Rosa Sophie Hamburger. Before we get started, a little bit of admin. The session is going to be recorded so that the people can access it afterwards. And in case of Zoom bombing, we have a lot of safety measures in place, but if something happens, we'll end the video and send you a new link via email. And before we start, I'll tell you a little bit about our platform, the organizers behind it, speculative design, and the idea behind tonight's topic. So Speculative Futures Berlin has been initiated and hosted by Ellery Studio since 2018. Who are we? We are a creative strategy consultancy. And at the heart, what we do is we call it design transformation. And this is a combination of foresight, visual design, and participation. We want to help our clients and our partners to anticipate future scenarios and to translate those to translate this knowledge into innovative communication formats and ultimately enable communities to work together and to shape the future. Speculative Futures Berlin belongs to the International Design Futures Initiative. That originates in San Francisco, but now it's like a global community. We have lots of chapters all over the world during events just like this. And we here in Berlin have 1,900 members currently. And that makes us one of the largest communities or chapters in the EU. And what we want to do is we want to spread the word of speculative design or design futures. And we want to facilitate change through design. We want to transfer knowledge of the designers and creators, the speakers we have here tonight, to a wider community and to build the futures we want. Our aim is to expand the use of foresight and speculative design and to enable other practitioners to do the same. And in the end, or our big goal is to build the foundation here in Berlin for this European Futures Network. And yeah, like I said, it was founded in San Francisco. And every year we have a conference called Primer that happens in the US and in the EU. And this year we're doing things a bit differently. It's going to be a global event for the whole world on the 8th and the 9th of July. And yeah, there's going to be a crazy amount of cool talks and workshops that you can participate in. And that's also why after tonight's event, we're going into a little summer break. There's going to be the Primer event, and then we'll be back roughly in September. And the theme for Primer is Now What? COVID has obviously radically altered all of our lives in the last year. And we want to reflect on what is important, what we want to do for tomorrow. And we want to ask, now what? Where do we go from here? And we're actually looking for submissions, and that's what we want to ask you. You have time until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning to still submit something. If you have an idea of an inspirational talk or a workshop idea that you maybe even want to host, then you can submit at the link that Antonia is going to share with you in the chat now. And while I still have your attention, if you aren't following us yet, feel free to join us on Meetup, Instagram, on LinkedIn, Twitter, you know what, all the jazz. And if you want to, if you also want to share an idea with us, that would also be great. We obviously want to host events that interest you. So you can always reach out also about follow-up questions after this event. All right, so first things first, we're obviously looking into various speculative design objects tonight, and I want to go through some basics with you. You might know this already, but just bear with me. All right, so here we have a graph of Elliot Montgomery showing us where we can find speculative designs. Kind of in the middle of unconstrained, where you can find art, and the constraint, where strategy or design thinking lies. And we're over here in that sweet spot. And yeah, it's a beautiful tool when you explore, when exploring and shaping the future in a humanity-centered way, because it thrives on our imagination and it asks us to open up new perspectives and to create spaces for discussion and debate about alternative ways of being. That's exactly what we want to do tonight. This can go in two ways. It can show us how we want to live, how we wish to live, and how we really do not want to live, kind of like a wake-up call, like you see it in Black Mirror, for example. And the leading question is not what the future most likely will look like, but what we want it to look like. So it's all about shaping the future and not mastering it. The topic of farewell obviously hits home, even more since last year. It makes it even more important to talk about. In our Western culture, this idea of not knowing what happens to us if we pass creates a lot of heaviness. And today we want to soften the stigma and have a conversation. And we won't only deal with a farewell as the end of life, but also a farewell as a process in other areas of life regulated by technology. And through these speculative design objects, we can explore different futures with evolved technological and societal rules. We can shed light on new angles of observation for us to debate afterwards. Our leading question tonight is our modern product and service culture with all the noise and all the communication noise better than the more dusty looking traditions that we have to practice strictly? Or can we find new hybrid customs that can emerge from this? Henrik Ries is going to give us a little introduction after this and talk about speculative design and the process on how these design works came about. And then afterwards, the design students, Gesine, Peter, Marina, and Rosa, they will present their speculative design works. And after each presentation, we'll have a little chance to talk about it, to see how do we feel about this? Is this a kind of world we want to live in? And I really hope that we can all get into a conversation together. Obviously, there's no right or wrong, so don't be shy. Also, we have design students here that are being kind enough to present their hard work to us, so also be gentle on them. And yeah, so before I hand over to Henrik Ries, a little introduction. He is a creative director with over 15 years of experience in UX and applied design research. He's a lecturer for interaction design, design thinking, and speculative design. And with his students, he works on socially relevant issues in the so-called inconvenience space. His course, The Future of Farewell at FH Potsdam, explores possible future perspectives on the design of farewell and the associated societal consequences. All right, so that's it from my side. Henrik, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Annika. You forgot to mention also people should be kind to me as well. That would be great as well. Okay,
I just said you have 15 years of experience.
You shouldn't call that out. Okay, can you see my visual now? Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna shorten the beginning a little bit, Annika, because you already mentioned a lot of wonderful words. So let's keep it really short and simple. Today is about the future of farewell. We're going to show you four times student work, which is really wonderful. But before that, you have to bear my personal talk. So like wait 15 to 20 minutes, and then you're going to see their awesome work. Okay, just some information about myself. My background is product and interface design and studies, and then I went into the field of UX and innovation, working as creative director right now. And my everyday question is from customers, like, what do our upcoming products look like in the near future? And the second question is always what will we make money in the next like 8, 9, 10 years? And the fields are totally different. It's like the future of learning, the future of engineering, the future of cooking. Everything is associated with future. And mostly in our daytime jobs, the future is just an app. So like I want to take the next step and switch over to what my second favorite thing is. And this is the field of teaching interaction design. I've been working for more than 6 years now in this field at FH Potsdam and FH Magdeburg. And my research topics are those which are really hard to explain to other people. Every time I want to explain to my mom, she doesn't really know what I do. So this is like serendipity in discovering things. This is waiting time in things where waiting could be really positive. This is inconvenient future, everything that is associated with future discussions. And the next is behavioral objects. So this is my kind of teaching flavor. And enough about this. Let's go directly into this topic. Because in winter semester, I wanted to start a new topic and something in the area of inconvenience. And I thought, well, which topic could be suitable? And I thought maybe like within the pandemic, the topic of farewell is a little hard, but what about like pushing this really into the future with all our wishes, with all our desires, all the questions that we have to soften the stigma a little bit. Annika, you already told that. And during my research about this topic farewell and rituals, I came across the Korean-German philosopher and author Han Byung-chul, and his essay, The Disappearance of Rituals. It's a really, really small book with a lot of sticky notes in it. It's really worth reading it. And Han explains in this compact book about the importance of rituals, not only Carnival bringing us joy, but also about farewell as kind of psychological, really relevant ritual for us humans. And he explains that rituals help us in getting transitions in life and enabling closure for us if something really hard is pressing us, and protecting our soul, stabilizing life, enabling breaks, and of course channeling affects. And he says dying requires that life is specifically concluded. If life is deprived of any possibility of closure, it will end untimely. And this quote, I was really stuck on this quote and said, okay, maybe this is a good start for a project. And before going into the course, I need to click here. And before going into the course, I got into another research, and it's really true. Over the centuries, there's a variety of different morning rituals that have evolved around the world. Like the picture on top, for instance, you can see this is the family of my godchild in a so-called Friedwald, where the ashes is buried beneath a tree, and then a beautiful tree grows. And this is like a place where you can really go with your children. Or there's like all these other really beautiful ceremonies in Japan or India. So that was to the point where I said, okay, maybe we can start with this. And then a friend of mine sent me the following video.
A lot of people are split on the birthday present Kanye West gave his wife, Kim Kardashian. He had a hologram created of her late father, Robert Kardashian, who gave her this birthday wish.
You're 40 and all grown up. You look beautiful, just like when you were a little girl. I watch over you and your sisters and brother and the kids every day. The most beautiful thing that I have witnessed is watching you grow your family. You married the most genius man in the whole world, Kanye West. I miss you all. Don't forget to say your prayers.
And I was incredible. Whatever we're discussing here in our design bubble, Kanye West's been already through. So like imagine yourself and imagine a little bit about what Hans said. How would you react if your deceased grandparents came back into your living room with all of that spam in their mouths? And how helpful would that be for the process of grieving and for closing? What would that make with us? And that was a good starting point. So we went on to see technology invades every area of our lives, especially those areas which should be better without tech. So we asked ourselves, with Kanye's possibly next idea in our minds, in which ways will societal and technological trends influence the way we see and practice farewells in our futures? Where are the implications of those future techs, and how can we as designers find access to this discussion? And with communication and interface design students from the bachelor program FH Potsdam, we used this last remote semester to explore different futures at Farewell. Please be aware that was an introductory course with only 10 meetings. So the results don't show the full range of possibilities, but today we want to show you at least 4 different perspectives on the topic and discuss them with you. After each small presentations, the students will ask you a question and then it's mic on and discussion. So like we really need you for this discussion. Okay, so how did we start? So first, we opened the topic with a minefield of personal thoughts. I wanted everyone to bring their own interests, worries, and questions, be it like who are our future saints, or what are contemporary rituals, or for instance, is there also a farewell to really bad things like stupid YouTube challenges? Could this be also a farewell in this society? And after going through this point for point, we found out that there are 3 topics that are highly relevant for us and that we want to dive deeper into. And that is first, the decease of a beloved person. Someone dies, someone close dies, and you're mourning, you're grieving. The second one is a breakup with a formerly close person. You were best friends or you were in a relationship. That is topic number 2. And topic number 3 is farewell to a feeling, to a habit, or to a mindset. So a more abstract approach to the topic of farewell. And so we went looking for different trends and we signals in very different categories. So let me quickly show you 4 of these categories. As you can see, the first were objects of farewell. The main finding was that with enough money, you can choose almost any physical form as a container or a tombstone, depending on your closeness to nature and maybe also depending on your desire for prestige. Be it you're ending as a diamond on a ring, or be it the tombstone with a display in it, or like there's so many forms, or like going into space to find your last rest. Like there's so many possibilities. That was the first one. And then we found this second trend, which was quite more interesting to us because it was less about dying and more the opposite direction, prolonging life at any cost. There are really, like, for instance, this Health Nucleus B100 Plus service, delaying deaths at the service in our society with all these means of modern tech. And for us, that was really the strongest trend of all. Like you can measure any of your values, get early signals before you get finally sick, terminally sick. So stay young and stay fresh at any cost. That was the second one. The third one, the third board revolved about the topic of digitalization. After almost 2 years of pandemic, with all these horrible scenes we've been seeing, like people being not able to say goodbye to the dearest, we know the consequences of the lack of contact on the topic of farewell. Yeah, and I think you realized it on media. People reacted quickly to the new circumstances and organized farewell parties on Zoom. And then, of course, big tech companies jumped on the train like Instagram, and they recognized this trend and launched this so-called, I think it was 2021, the remembering feature for the first time for the actually really young target group. And in my opinion, I hope you can read that. I wrote this in yellow text. In my opinion, it's really cynical because it says celebrating someone's life after their passing. So what they mean is we can still make money with someone after they've passed, then dancing on their grave. So that it's a really cynical point, but you will see it in many fields of tech. And then we found the third one, and this is where the tech spiral continues to spin. You can see here a clip from a VR prototype of a Korean TV show, in which a mother can once again be with her daughter who died a few years ago. And in this virtual world, they can walk, they can play, or they can even eat cake. You can see it on the video. And if you think back to Hanbyo-chon, what does it do to a person when old wounds are reopened and a new illusion prevents closure with the past? You know, this is also this quote from Jamah Hunt: turning death into an emotional spectacle is not what we need. So like, this is a question that came across us. So our students decided to work on two sides of the topic. On the left, there was this one question from Gesine and Marina, how to prepare people for farewell. And on the right side, this is Rosa and Peter, how to cope with the own emotions after something bad has happened. And these will be the two projects. I'm just going to show you a little bit about the process, because every time when I go into the meetup, I'm especially interested in how did they do that? And yeah, most of the time the presenters don't really show that, and I get really annoyed. So we decided, okay, let's give some little insights in how the process was. Here's a quick overview about our beginner speculative design process in case you would like to know. So we started in the area of signals and trends, looking for emergent tech, all the things that are out there, like many of the things I've already shown you. Then went into the future wheel, looking for implications on many levels. What happens if these trends get more, or if these signals get more prominent into trends, what happens in the future? Designed some early scenarios with their implications. So we talked about intents and modalities of rituals, like how could this influence our ideas? Created these first sketches of ideas, like every student created 3 concepts. And we went into discussion, got some early feedback, how far in the future is this idea? How innovative is it? Is there any provocation, or is it just like a random ongoing event, like normal designers would do in everyday life? Then we took these ideas and went into something called a ritual design map, where we said, okay, how would the idea look when it's totally designed to service on the one hand, but how could it look like as a ritual with all the specialties that rituals have? We were scouting for physical markers in these rituals. Like, you know, when you go to church, there's certain rituals like candles or stuff. So we were looking, are there any physical objects in these rituals that we could design to get to give people an understanding what we are talking about? And then finally, we brought these ideas into early storyboards and created what was called the first prototypes. I'm going to explain a little bit about prototypes later, but prototype is like a first draft of how the future idea could look like, or an element of this future ideas. So that was the process overall. I think later you can still ask some questions if you're interested in more details to methodology. But before going into the students' presentations, I want to give you one quick insight in the special method that we used. Because when the first prototypes were created, we wanted to think about our outcomes from different angles to find out what are weaknesses or what are hidden potentials. And I know that for experimentation, many people love these so-called tarot cards of tech. The tarot cards of tech make you think about the outcomes technology can create, and you can use as kind of wildcards to integrate into your speculative project. And this can be used, for instance, to find out what are unintended consequences or opportunities for positive change. But and these cards can help you gazing into the future and make your product better. But for us, we looked at them and said, okay, this looks too San Francisco Bay Area. They were too techy, and we were looking for something closer to rituals or belief systems. So what we did is we found something different and really, really useful in the German magazine Transform. They had these kind of belief cards. These cards, for instance, veganism, or believing in Apple, believing in neoliberalism, believing in Christianity, or in football clubs. So we had these kind of belief systems, which helped us strengthening our ideas, because we could check if an idea could go more spiritual or economical or more fun, to create new ways of dealing with farewells. Let me show you quickly how this worked. So we had our initial question, for instance, as a first idea, a student had the idea, imagine your grandma rests as artificial intelligence in your Alexa device at home. the question would be which she could pick a card then, the student, and the question would be, which influence would the Flat Earth movement have on a smart speaker for grieving people? So grandma is in Alexa, she's still there within kind of artificial intelligence, and how could, for instance, like the Flat Earth movement influence this kind of idea? So for the next step, we said, what's so special about Flat Earth movement? And we found, for instance, people want simple explanations. Everything is in a bubble. So we took one of these things, like for instance, everything is so simple, and the clicking does not work here. Let's try again. Yeah, and we reframed our initial question. So which influence would simple answers or the need for simple answers have on a smart speaker for grieving people? And then we went on doodling. So the entire course went into like a brainstorming. We had this initial idea, grandma is as AI in the smart speaker. And now how could, for instance, this smart speaker give us simple answers that are easy to understand? And we had different kind of ideas. For instance, we had new beliefs that the fear of death would disappear and people would be happy with this new idea of living on and on. We could also think about like an increasing amount of suicides, of course, because people were so safe that nothing would happen after death, so they would leave their regular life. We thought about maybe family disputes would be still possible. Like if grandma is still part of family discussion, you could still go into dispute with grandma. She would tell you, you're still not wearing warm enough clothes, so please do that. It's 15 degrees outside. Another idea would be, we would help people to get over an abrupt death. So whenever grandma is still alive, she could still talk to you. The conversation could fade out week after week. So you could get unused to these people. Or the other one, maybe knowledge from former generations doesn't get lost. Deceased people like your grandma could still give useful advices on how to do knitting, how to do housework, all the insights that get lost with the grandma. So that was one of the methods in detail that we had. And after many of these iterations, we went into what we call prototypes. So what are prototypes? Prototypes are kind of artifacts from the future scenario. This can be like this example, for instance, this is a Wired of the future, like a magazine from the future, or a product from a scenario that people use or part of a service. And goal of these prototypes is not just to be there, but it's to tell stories about life in the future and to provoke people to discuss whether they find this future worth living or not. And they're a really good tool for qualitative feedback. And that's why we want to achieve this with you today. We will share 4 prototypes about the future of farewell, and we would love to hear your thoughts about these futures. Each talk will end with a question that you shall discuss. We're going to start with, today, we're going to start with Gesine. Let me introduce her quickly. So after training as a film and video editor, Gesine began studying communication design at the University of Applied Science in Potsdam in 2017. And her main focus is on the conception and the production of moving images, but also graphical projects. So like interface design and speculative design were totally new terms. And I was really surprised in which direction Gesine went. So Gesine, now it's your turn.
Thank you, Henrik. Hello, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about our projects here today. Let me introduce my speculative world, which is not all that speculative if you look at some existing trends. Next. Undeniable is that there are now sensors all around us that measure everything. So like body hugging devices have become totally normal in our life, and they monitor your own health from, for example, blood pressure to heartbeat and so on. And in extreme situations such as the corona pandemic, like we live in now, you can already see what or where the self-tracking can lead. Suddenly you can follow the delivery guy in the app on your smartphone and get a live update of his body temperature because it's tracked. and all data is measured. And so I can use these sensory values, and of course I use them to optimize myself too, with gadgets, for example, or tools. And look at this countdown clock on the bottom. What does it do? Your time of death can be calculated based on your lifestyle, the place where you live, and and other data. And the clock shows how much time you have left until you're dying. And in this way, the focus is placed on what is valuable. And so you can spend your own time as sensibly as possible, and to remember that you can influence that. And if you influence that and you want to this influence for yourself, why won't you do that for other people? We're used to get informations about status of others all the time. Think of chat services and location informations. And how about making the other sensory values I talked about also transparent? So health status and well-being that is visible for everybody. And what kind of society could this be thinkable? Next. It's clear that the world in a few years will be even more technological, and smart devices have become an integral, a big part of everyday lives. And there are devices that support us in everything and even take on tasks for us with the help of sensors, and sensors that also measure ourselves, built into tracking devices, and they record everything, process it, and they give us signals to adapt our behavior if it's necessary or maybe wanted from us. So the self-tracking is the most normal thing. No matter if you're young or old, you do it. And the medical data is transformed into a digital health status. And there's a service that makes transparent for us what the device already know for a long time. Thanks to AR technology, we will be able to see these information. So all the medical data, and even more, not only the physical and psychological data, but also the what connects us with other persons will be visualized. So there's the pure data, but it's given into a context. And the result is next. Thanks. The result is a new term that I call relationship quality. Sorry. So there are questions like, how would you change your life if you knew that your grandparents, or I don't know, your best friend, the partner you live with, had only a few months to live? And would you spend maybe more time with him? Would you speak another way to him? What would you do? Would you change things regarding your relationship? And all this time and all these things defines your relationship quality. And now I show you what this would look like. Through the smart glasses, you see the persons directly, and thanks to the AR technological, you can see in which status they are. All the data I spoke about are visualized and translated into a symbol. It's the flora flower. And this flower, is a symbol of beauty, of a lively object, but it also represents transience. And this flower shows how the person you look at is doing. So on the left, the grandma, older, little ailing, not in that good state. And next to her, the granddaughter, young, healthy, with a bigger and brighter flower. So the element shows two dimensions. The first is the color that shows the so-called relationship quality. Are you close to the person you look at? Have you a positive relationship? Then the flower will be brighter and stronger and more colored. And the second dimension is the shape of the flower that indicates the person's state of health. So wilting leaves or puckered edges, flickering, all that indicates problems in health. So flora is a more far future draft that use existing technologies to make a person's condition visible to everyone, but also visualize your connection to the person based on real measurable data. And the question I want to ask to you and to know what you think about is, how do you think togetherness would maybe evolve with everyone knowing each other's weaknesses? For example, think of the birthday party of your unloved relative, and maybe what would it change in how to deal with the person you don't like that much when you know that they are sick or lonely or even just running out of lifetime? So yeah, that I would love to hear what you think about my project.
Thank you so much, Gisela. That's super interesting. Yeah, so you guys can take a couple seconds to think about the question. Raise your hand if you have an idea, or yeah, if you want to contribute something. I guess Henrik, do you wanna start and just maybe give an impression, and then
yeah, I was thinking about it because in my opinion, it's also really a highly sensitive topic, because I think once the technology is there, and I think with Gesine, you just have two values, healthy or not, but you've seen it with a pizza delivery guy, if it gets more specific, body temperature, etc. Just think about how sensitive it could be, for instance, for women, for instance, if someone is, for instance, pregnant or something, expecting, and you don't really see that, and people don't want to talk about it until a certain month, and that would reveal a lot of things where people might not want it. Or for instance, if you think about people with just think about the vaccination discussion we have in Germany right now, with people, for instance, which suffer from autoimmune disease like lupus or something. They always have like a little higher temperature, and they might be excluded as sick, for instance. So like, of course, it might help me, for instance. I'd better call my grandma more than once a year to ask her, how are you, and thank you for last time Christmas money. But the more I think about it, would also open new questions. So yeah, let's see what others think about it. I see Corey is here. Corey, hi. Maybe Corey can say something, because we always wanted to chat about this topic and never got the opportunity.
I know, it's so great that I'm finally getting to see these wonderful prototypes. It's great to be here. Brilliant presentation. Thank you so much for sharing. I think one insight that I think is really key to this, a lot of the time we ask adults to think a bit more like children, or to kind of have the empathy of children. When your child, I have a young child, so this is why this is relevant to me. When your child is sick, you don't go, oh, what a dickhead. You try and work out, why are they so grumpy today? Are they not feeling well? Is it their teeth? Is it that they're not doing okay? We always try and find the underlying reasons when somebody's being maybe not that positive, or someone's being a blocker in a meeting. If we kind of use this mindset to think, oh, there's more to it, they might not be doing too great. I think that's a really nice insight that would play a role here. You had a really interesting point, Henrik, about just, okay, your plain health values might not play into that, but I still think this idea of kind of bringing empathy to understanding. I mean, you posed the question to say, why don't you like that family member that much, and would their health status influence your empathy towards them? Maybe, but maybe just also understanding just more about them. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm ranting a bit.
Thank you so much, Corey. Renee, you also want to contribute something? Do you want to unmute you? I'm trying to unmute you.
There we go.
Yeah.
I was, to Corey's, kind of riffing off what Corey said a little bit, that when you get near someone you don't like, or like too much, what changes inside your stats, physically and medically. So that would be like a weird thing to see if you're able to, if the person you're having a reaction to can see that. And also it reminds me a little bit of, have you seen that movie with Justin Timberlake? I forget what it's called, but basically where time is currency.
Yeah, it's called
And
In Time.
what?
In Time.
In Time, that one. It's going, and it'll also play with that. You know, when you hire someone, you don't want to hire someone that's sickly. You want to hire someone that's in the full bloom of health. When you have a relationship also, you don't want, it'll begin to kind of like put everyone into silos and cause weird, I guess, cause a weird relationship between technology and how you choose your relationships. But it was the project itself is super cool. And now I'm gonna spend the whole night thinking about it and writing a Black Mirror episode all about it.
Does anyone know the Korean term nunchi? Has anyone ever heard about it?
No.
There's this one rare movie where I learned about it, and then like I had my boyfriend to explain to me. Nunchi is the Korean art of guessing someone else's emotion without telling them. So, you know, for instance, someone is really upset, but you don't let them know because you don't want them to be, because you know the person is shy and you don't want them to be embarrassed. So this is the total opposite of nunchi. Like you see how everyone feels. You see how is, like, I think Corey, you made the point, like, for instance, you could see if someone is in love or if someone is really frustrated or something. It might not just be body temperature or something. We're always trying to read emotions, but what would this do to our like kindergartens or early schools if there's a first love, and like what would this do to our kids? It's so frustrating already now. So what would happen then? Yeah, but you've seen it, like the example with Gesina's pizza delivery or food delivery. It's already happening. Like these are already signals that are out there.
Yeah, I think what I was also thinking at first is, oh, this is great. It can enhance collaboration. You can immediately see if someone is unwell and then you can help out. And I was also thinking it can maybe help out with mental health issues, bring them to your attention. As you can see a broken arm, you'll be able to see if someone is feeling anxious or depressed, which is good. But on the other hand, it obviously exposes us like crazy, and that can also be to our disadvantage. And yeah, I would love to keep talking about this. I can see already in the comments as well, people have so many great ideas. Yeah, you guys can just keep going as well over there. I think we will head off to the next object. Thank you so much, Gesina. And the next speaker that we have is Peter Schwarz. He is studying interface design at FH Potsdam as well, and he explores the intersections of art, technology, and society.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us and giving us the chance to present our works. And yeah, my work is called The Orb, Release Your Negative Emotions. Hendrik, next, please. Yeah, so at the beginning, when I was approaching the topic of farewell, I was mainly asking myself 3 questions. What makes goodbye so difficult? How do we deal with emotions? And what is the status of emotions in our society? And yeah, from interviews, I've found 3 insights. Many of us have very high expectations and busy schedules that leave little time for grieving. And in order to meet these high expectations, we have resilience trainings, and that these make us perform even in harder times. And secretly, we rather find excuses for our emotions. And yeah, many people know that. For example, when my partner broke up with me, I would call at work and would have a headache instead. Hendrik, next, please. Yeah, so when further progressing in my research, I was really fascinated from different religions, traditions, and rituals, not only concerning death. And the one ritual that fascinated me the most was the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, which forgives one's sins. And I find this ritual very essential for my prototype and have derived a purifying effect from it. And also within the different stations of the pilgrimage, the actors of the rituals experience guidance through their transformation, which is also very important in my prototype. Yeah, and then the second trend is the one of our belief in digital well-being and virtual worlds. So digital healthcare as a possible potential also of VR technology, so we can experience in our future therapy, for example, in virtual reality. And, or for example, like in this picture, light therapy, which promises to relieve you from pain. Yeah. And the third trend was the one of club culture that probably also many of us know, where we are forgetting through light, sound, and sometimes also self-medication. We let go from pent-up energies and yeah, relief from our emotional stress. Okay, next, please. Yeah, so from all these different signals, I've drafted a world of performance. I think it's a very possible and plausible near future scenario in which young professionals working in high performative jobs use VR glasses to quickly find relief from their grief. And yeah, they are guided in form of a technological meditation to restore a state of emotional balance. And yeah, here you can see the virtual reality glasses that I've developed. And on the next slide, you see how it looks like when you're wearing the glasses. This is the interface of the orb. And yeah, inside of this world, it's like it's a quite simple game. Your emotions are tracked, and each emotion is represented by a butterfly. And yeah, so your whole sentiment is represented within this world, and the task is to collect some of the butterflies that went lost and release them in the center. And what you find then is instant relief. Yeah, so and now I will show you a little teaser of this world because it's a game. And if you're keen, I can also, you can text me, I can send you a link, you can try it. But for now, Henry, can you go on to the next slide? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so I come also to my question to you, and thank you so far for listening. And yeah, so the question is, do you have a personal orb in your current life?
Thank you. I actually have a question. When you say, do you have a personal orb in your current life? Do you mean like a place that helps me to release my emotions or find relief?
Exactly, yeah. When you are maybe meeting some tough situations where you need to find balance quickly or need to stay performative, if you have some kind of a solution that or something that works for you.
Okay, yeah, great, thanks. I think we already have someone that wants to speak. Anuraj, I think you can unmute yourself now. Yeah.
So the person, I firstly really liked the concept. It kind of reminded me of, you know, how some people, when they have a tough day, they just take a pillow and scream into it. So it feels like a very hyper interactive version of screaming into a pillow. You scream into a pillow and then you're still functional. You can be productive. You can go about your day. So yeah, that's also my personal orb. When I'm frustrated, I just go into the pillow, and then things seem better after that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Anyone else? What's their personal orb? Okay, you did.
Yeah, hello. First of all, very nice work. It's so beautiful. I love the video and the concept at all. What I find very interesting here is, that it's actually a game, because I can just totally agree, because since the pandemic, I find myself actually playing more video games, especially open world games, because we're currently restricted and not going out, meeting people. So basically everything is going in a digital place. For example, you can meet your friends online inside, for example, Animal Crossing, and playing around with them, or checking out the mountains instead of Breath of the Wild, and walk for miles, what you cannot do currently in your own world. So yeah, that's very interesting. And yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? What do you guys do right now? I feel like this music already gave me an emotional relief. It was super beautiful, really. Okay, Judith already spoke. Okay, everyone's just talking in the chat. Come on, guys, speak to us. Corey?
Yeah, I love the idea on two aspects. I think on one side, yes, this escapism, like we just heard from the last person, of kind of busying yourself in another realm to kind of step out of the waves of grief. But also, Stephanie and I were just talking in the chat about how healing nature can be. And I wrote as well that nature is really, there's a lot of evidence to attest that nature is really soothing, and getting a large perspective, whether it's in a mountain range or being in a forest or looking at the ocean, that can also really help you deal with perspective and kind of, work on your emotions. So I love this idea of having kind of a digital, escaping, immersive realm that really helps you be with yourself, but also maybe escape from yourself a bit as well. So I love it.
Thank you. I just saw also Oksana saying, I think crying also is a beautiful release of emotions.